Time for the French newspapers here on France 24. Elaine is with us in the studio as ever. Of course, the Eurozone summit is the big story of the moment. What are the French papers saying about it?
It's the only thing on the front pages this morning. Le Figaro starts with Sarkozy and Merkel go all out to save the euro. They don't have a great deal of detail on what negotiation those two leaders have apparently come to, but they're not particularly confident in the paper that whatever it is will actually stop the collapse in Europe's periphery economies. If we have a look at the financial newspaper Les Echos, their headline says the euro forbidden to fall, and it says the single currency is on the edge of the abyss. But there's quite an interesting analysis in here. They say the collapse of the euro would mean the end of the whole European project, which has been built up since 1950. They say the generation that believed in a united Europe and constructed the union is dead, and its successors are tearing it apart. They say that Europe is a project of the kind of post-war idealistic era, same as the welfare state, and the baby boomer generation inherited that from the generation that created it and have proceeded to tear apart both Europe and the welfare state, the paper says. So neither of these greater idealistic projects will be passed on down to the next generation. And they said that means the baby boomers have got a lot to answer for. That generation in Europe has lived with advantages which might never be seen again in the future.
Now, the Catholic newspaper, Le Croix, they've been going out and about around Europe, haven't they? Sort of kind of canvassing opinion on what people think about it.
Yes, their front page says how to get Europe out of crisis, and they've certainly asked quite a variety of different people what they should do, from business leaders to unionists to religious leaders to politicians. They all agree, really, that no country can be allowed to drop out of the euro, and many of them think that what we need is more European federalism, a European finance ministry, for example, and something done about the ratings agencies to stop their ability to destroy individual European economies. Yes, very extremely controversial. And, they've got environmentalists in there like Daniel Cohn-Bendit, who suggests a green investment programme to give the European economy a bit of a boost. They've got unionists who say that in this time of austerity, the European leaders should agree on some basic social protections that can't be touched, like the minimum wage. They've got religious leaders who say that market speculation is immoral and that's something that needs to be stopped. But perhaps most relevantly to the negotiations, they also interview the Polish finance minister in there, who says that while he's concerned about Greece, it's not a charity. And that's probably, that point of view is going to be quite important in these negotiations today, because if they can't get all of the European nations on board to help out Greece, the negotiations will stall.
Now, you see a piece you put out as well in Libération. This is the left-leaning paper here in France. They're talking about the demonstrators, because obviously from their point of view, any solution is likely to mean cuts, which they're not going to be happy with.
Absolutely not. They've got Europe indignant on the front page. They do a tour around the continent inside the paper, focusing particularly on Greece, where they've got lots of individual stories of people badly affected by austerity. The Albanian immigrants living on €400 a month, this small business owner who's seen his income halved in the last 2 years, the pensioners who are living in the dark because they can't afford to pay their electricity bill. And they say that while not all these people are inclined to take to the streets and protest about it, they all agree that they feel disenfranchised. Their government can do nothing because all the decisions are being made by international banks, and they're frustrated that their tax money is wasted in saving the banks' balance sheets. They're not seeing any advantage, and the paper finds that attitude across the continent, in Spain with the indignant movement, which is converging in a big protest march on Madrid, in England, where we've seen protests recently, in Italy. And they say that the pundits all seem to agree on what the problem is with the euro. The markets and the credit ratings agencies have too much power, and they seem to agree on a solution, which is more European federalism and perhaps a European finance ministry and so on. You find those opinions everywhere, but Libération says they've forgotten the most important thing is to get European citizens engaged in the process, otherwise it'll fail.
Well, I suppose it is the story of the day. It's the story that's dominating the newspapers. We'll find out, of course, what, if anything, comes out as the day goes on here on France 24. All right, Elena, thank you very much. That's the French newspaper. She'll be back a little bit later on with the international ones as ever, of course, here on France 24.